Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning. For Sunday, April 6th, I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 146 days, the game against Michigan in 237 days. Joined by Tony Gerdeman here inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. But first, Tony, we got to talk about our friends from Grateful Griddle.
Yes.
Columbus's favorite food truck. They are serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. You, Tony, can book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. I've heard rumors there may be a stop-off at the Grateful Griddle food truck at some point in our near future. Looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. But yes, you can perhaps beat us there if you hurry. GratefulGriddleOH.com. All right, so we just got a chance to watch the student appreciation practice, which is always kind of an hour of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, followed by an absolute mob scene as people try and get autographs, maybe never before to the level that it was with Jeremiah Smith. We can maybe talk about that later, but first let's talk a little bit about the practice. And it was kind of game situation kind of stuff. Yeah. So this is probably the best look we've gotten at the team on the whole. I'm sure everyone right now is going, how'd the quarterbacks look? Yeah. So Tony, how'd the quarterbacks look?
Well, it's every day somebody new looks better, I think, or somebody different looks better. I think today Lincoln Keynotes looked better than Julian Sand. Tavien St. Clair had some moments. He's escaping. He was live for basically all of the practice, and the other two quarterbacks were live for some of the practice, which was interesting. So when you are the third quarterback, as Tavien St. Clair was, and you're working with the twos or the threes, you got to do a lot of running around because you're also working with the second and third team offensive line, which means a lot of true freshmen and redshirt freshmen and walk-ons. So you don't have a lot of time just to sit back. But thought Lincoln Keynotes looked pretty good. He had he dropped a dime on like 55-yard from the 45. I think that's where they started on first down. Dropped it right into Carnell Tate on Devin Sanchez. I believe perfect throw, good coverage, just exactly everything you want to see basically. And I think he led them on a couple of touchdown drives. Tavien St. Clair led them on a touchdown drive when they were going from the 45 out, like going 55 yards. And I don't know that Julian Sand led them on any touchdown drives from the 45. But overall, it's funny. I'd say Lincoln Keynotes had the better day, but it just depends on the day because when we were in here earlier in the week, and I talked with somebody who was in here, he's like, yeah, Julian was a lot better than Lincoln. Yeah. And welcome to spring.
Yeah, this is welcome to spring. You're going to have a lot of variation. And a lot of this is, if Devin Sanchez has his hand a little closer and knocks that pass away, then that was the big standout highlight. And then there was one thing that made that play stand out to me was one play earlier, Sain had thrown an interception. And it wasn't a bad interception, but it was an interception. And it was a play that Jermaine Matthews made a great break on the ball. And the difference between Jermaine Matthews being in coverage and Devin Sanchez being in coverage might be the difference there. But yeah, this is one where this is going to go back and forth a little bit. I'm not ready to draw any conclusions there. But I really did want to talk a little bit about Tavien St. Clair because Tavien St. Clair, from when we were in here the first couple practices of the spring, Tavien St. Clair looked like a baby deer that couldn't stand up and was, they're working with him on like, here's how you take a snap under center because he'd never done it before. And really this is what a true freshman looks like the first couple practices. It wasn't, I don't think we even mentioned it because it was like, yeah, man, this is what it looks like. You're not ready to start. Congratulations. I still don't think he's ready to start, but man, oh man, has he made some major strides over the last couple weeks. I was very, very impressed with him because, as you said, he was live. And that was, so then it's not just I can stand here with no fear at all. Like, there are big angry people wearing white jerseys who are looking to do me harm, and he was dipping and diving and dodging and extending plays with his legs, made some nice throws, pick up some third downs. I was very, very impressed with Tavien St. Clair. I am absolutely not saying he's going to start. I'm not even saying he's a serious candidate to start. But I am saying, man, oh man, this is one of these things where we just watch the first couple and it's like, okay, just sort of figure out where guys are. He feels like he has come light years in the last couple weeks. Yeah, and he had one where he got flushed out. I think he's rolling left and really zipped it right to David Adolph, like a lightning bolt, and went through Adolph's hands. But it was a perfect throw. It was, he escaped the pressure, made the throw, so he'll get, I assume, a plus on that, unless he didn't see the first read. He didn't need a scramble. He was getting, but just you saw some glimpses, and I think we were talking with another media member. It was like, this is like watching him in high school again because the offensive line struggles
and the receivers aren't getting open because at times he is throwing to Brendan Schramm or David Adolph, who former walk-on, those kind of guys. And so he's not throwing to Jeremiah Smith, but if he was, he'd be throwing against Davison Igbinosin and guys like that. And so, but yeah, I was impressed with him as well. He certainly, you look at him, he's like, that looks like a Big Ten quarterback. That looks like a future NFL quarterback because he's 6'3", 6'4", 225, and has the arm to go along with it, or at least the arm strength to go along with it.
Yeah, and speaking of freshmen who look good today, let's talk about one of the freshman wide receivers, Quincy Porter. We have not officially been told he lost his black stripe, but I have a picture of him with a student, and there's a red stripe on his helmet after the practice. And having watched the practice, I can tell you, we've heard lots of positive things about him. And then, again, the first couple practices this spring, they're barely doing anything. He's just trying to figure out where they're going for the next drill. He's another one where you look and you're like, he could probably do something this year.
He's Jeremiah Smith's backup right now at the X, and so he's definitely going to play. He was making catches here and there throughout. There was one where a deep shot, and I think it was Lincoln Kienholz, and Quincy Porter was being covered by Devin Sanchez, beats Sanchez, throws just a little behind, a little late, a little underthrown. Sanchez recovered, was able to break it up. Just fun watching those two freshmen go at it, and some high-level play there, but impressed with Porter throughout. He was catching stuff in coverage where a corner is like right on his hands, and he's catching a nice little out route for a first down. Really strong kid for a freshman. Yeah,
I mean, he's got the size, and you can already see he's got some of the movement, the mobility, the fluidity. I mean, all the stuff you're kind of looking for. It's kind of like, okay, check that box, check that box, check that box. As you're talking, I'm in my head going, we're probably going to title this show something like 4th True Freshmen who were really impressed at Ohio State Spring. So let's talk about, let's talk a little bit about Devin Sanchez, because Devin Sanchez, where he is in the running order right now, that in and of itself is impressive and interesting to me, because he's someone who has, certainly has the pedigree to be an impact player in some form this year. I'm not saying he's jumping Jermaine Matthews in the running order or anything like that, but someone who has the opportunity to potentially play a significant role. And, this is practice 9 or 10 or whatever it is of spring, so you've got a long way to go till the season. But man, if he was going to play at least some kind of role this year and play some meaningful snaps for them this fall, this is kind of about where he'd be.
Yeah, you're right. He was running with the ones at times today, so was Aaron Scott, and those two are your backups.
Yeah.
And backup meaning somebody has to be 3, somebody has to be 4. Jermaine Matthews was a backup last year, but he was also a starter.
Yeah.
So like I say, backups, either of those guys could be the Jermaine Matthews of this year and move themselves into a rotation. So when I say backups, just realize that we're just talking mathematics and things like that, where those two guys are going to battle, I think, all spring camp long and all fall camp long to be that number 3, because number 3 is the next guy in. And it'll be fun watching those two guys, but to be a true freshman, and they roll guys a lot. So a lot of guys, if you're on the first 2 teams, you're going to be working with the ones at times. So everybody's going to be working with the ones at some point, basically, but he does not look lost out there. I'll say that. And they look, those top 4 corners. Maybe I said it on a recent commitment show, or maybe I said it here, or maybe I said it on Buckeye Weekly. Could have said it in many other places.
Turns out we do a lot of podcasts. Yes, go on.
There are a lot of teams out there that would be happy to start Aaron Scott and Devin Sanchez as their starting corners this year.
I think there are probably, there's 134 FCS or FBS teams right now. I think those are guys who are probably starting at minimally 110. Something like that, minimally, and you might have one of them starting at 120. I mean, and those are the backups for Ohio State. And that's, I think, a little bit of a testament to Tim Walton, and the job Tim Walton does in recruiting, but also the job Tim Walton has done in development. Tim Walton has been, that's a position group where they were not in great shape several years ago. They were real thin a couple of years ago. And now not only is there depth, there's quality depth where, those are... Denzel Burke started in 2021 because he was a really good true freshman. But you really don't want to have I don't know that Denzel Burke was materially better than Devin Sanchez is right now. It might be more of a statement on the rest of the corners in the room back then, as opposed to talent level there. So So that's 3. Fourth true freshman who jumped out to me, and you can feel free to add to this list later.
Sure.
But Tony, let me spin you a yarn about a running back named Bo Jackson. It is not the first guy who has had that position and that name before. First time at Ohio State, and true freshman. It just, sometimes you look at a guy, he's not going to be starting. Like, he's not, James Peoples looks like he's really where they would need him to be. And you brought in C.J. Donaldson to be some, quality veteran depth and all that kind of stuff. So they're not going to need Bo Jackson to be a 150, 200 carry guy this year for sure. But the little bits we saw, and again, this is, you have to caveat all of this with, he's going against a third-team defense. He's also running behind the third-team offensive line. So there's a lot of I would love to see what he looks like with the ones. But you saw some stuff out of him that was kind of like, you see why Carlos Lachlan gets a little bit of a twinkle in his eye when he talks about Bo Jackson.
Yeah, and there was one run where you had Lachlan running down the sideline. Yeah, Bo, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you expect some explosive guy, and he is, but he runs hard. He runs through people. And when they were playing, when it was tackle or when it was thud, he was putting the thud in the thud and trying to break every tackle. And I think James Peoples carried the ball 49 times last year as a true freshman. I would think Bo Jackson will carry the ball more than that this year, with Peoples and C.J. Donaldson, thank you, as the top 2 guys. But he was impressive, and he can get to the corner, he can pick up a tough yard, he can do a bunch of different things for you.
All right, so those are the 4 true freshmen that I kind of had in my mind that I wanted to talk about. Any others from that, from that true freshman class that really jumped out to you before we kind of move on to some other stuff?
Des Jones, slot receiver, had a couple good catches. Philip Bell had a nice catch on a slant for the receivers. Trying to think if anybody else was out there. Carter Lowe is running with the 3s at left tackle, and we've talked about him recently and his weight loss. He looks pretty athletic out there. Defensively,
hang on. Since you mentioned offensive line, Jake Cook, I believe, was with the 2s. That's, he was, I think, the left guard with the 2s, and that's again, there's lots of moving parts and lots of moving pieces, but he's someone who he didn't come in with the 5-star pedigree. So when you see someone like that at that point, if you're running with the 2s, either you're missing a bunch of guys and they were shuffling people around, or you came in and you're maybe physically a little more developed and ready to contribute right away. That's another name I would just sort of file away. And again, every time we're talking about true freshmen, I feel like we need to caveat this with, no one is saying this person is going to start this year. No one person is going to say this person is going to win the Remington Award or the Blitnikoff Award this year. But if you're at this point in of the spring and you're rubbing with the 2s on the offensive line, that's like a little bit of I kind of cock an eyebrow and go, interesting.
It will be interesting to see how quickly the linemen can develop when they have so much coaching now. So that'll be interesting to watch. Yeah,
4 offensive line coaches right now, and we got a chance to talk to the offensive linemen earlier in the week, and they had on yesterday's morning show, you got to hear a little bit from Carter Lowe and Ethan Anianwa about that and about the 4 coaches and how much they've been, that's a lot of feedback you can get from guys. So that's all positive. Let's talk a little
Unless
bit.
You're doing poorly.
Well, then you need, that's also needed feedback. Let's talk about some of the other elements of the offensive line. The tackle positions and where guys are sort of, we're lining up today, and this is not like a final depth chart, any of that. I feel like I have to caveat all of this stuff because it's like, well, people said that, not just, we're just letting you know what we saw. The rotation at tackles, Ian Moore is another young guy who you saw, you're hearing good things about him this spring. There's a lot of tackles that they've got, and they've got, you could slot in any number of different combinations there, but I think he's someone else I kind of have my eye on. But what did you see on the line?
Well, and it was interesting because Ian Moore was with the 2s at right tackle. Then later on he was with the 1s at left tackle. Ethan Anianwa was with the 1s at left tackle. Austin Seerveld started with the 1s at right tackle, but we know Seerveld has basically played all 4, everything but center so far. So it's going to be interesting to watch what eventually happens with Seerveld where he is. Is he the fifth guy? Is he the sixth guy? Because I think he's one of those. Mm-hmm. And if he is the fifth guy, then you figure out where.
Yeah.
Phillip Daniels got a unsportsmanlike penalty down in the red zone on a 4th and 1. They picked up the first down, and I guess he must have stayed a little too physical and aggressive. And there was a little scrum there, and they got penalized for that. But I don't know that you mind seeing that right now. Better now, Tom, than in November.
Yeah, if the choice is now or November, that would be better. Better now, but yeah, I think people would be surprised at how physical these practices get, and that it's this is not even fall camp where you've been banging into the same person for 6 months now, and it's 90 degrees outside, and you're angry and. These practices, we've seen this for years. This is not abnormal at all, but it gets a little chippy. And that's something that guys have talked about being a good thing this spring. That means no one's getting complacent. That means that you're taking it seriously. That means you really are fighting. And so, I don't know. It's not a good thing to have that happen. And if that's happening a lot, then that's a concern. But yeah, once, it's fine.
They even talked about maybe this past week how they planned this whole spring to just kind of take it a little bit easier, but then you come out here after like a week or so and you see how young you are and how much work people need. It's like, well, we need to ramp up the physicality a little bit, and I was surprised that any of the quarterbacks were live today, let alone all three of them at the end of practice. So that was a surprise to me, and I think it's maybe a little bit of a message that you got to pick stuff up.
Yeah, and you also you have to have these guys get hit a little bit, because otherwise, Tavien Henderson, remember when he first showed up at Ohio State, they had not played his senior season because of COVID in Virginia, and so he showed up and he hadn't been hit in like a year, and he was saying like, I'm really looking forward to getting just mashed in the face, because you need that every once in a while if you're going to play football. You can't bubble wrap people forever.
And then what did Evan Pryor say when he was asked if he was ready to get hit?
I think he was less enthusiastic.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to get hit.
So yeah, it's certainly in it's been more physical than I expected this spring based on what Ryan Day had said. But I think that's probably you make your plans and then you sort of adjust on the fly, and that's sort of how it goes. I think we've mostly covered the offense. On the defensive side of the ball, any big takeaways? I know there was. I think at one point everyone thought, oh boy, there's going to be big injury news, and it turned out to be absolutely nothing. With Dom Kirks went down, it looked like rushing off the edge, and then popped up and was fine. But he went down, and I think everyone was kind of holding their breath for a minute. But then he was practicing and was fine after that. But
he also had a sack.
He did. Yep.
In his practice. I think one of the interesting things that I saw was something that the defense did last year, where Caleb Downs would come in and kind of be like a linebacker, and Jordan Hancock would go back and be the free safety. They did that today with like Jalen McClain being Caleb Downs and being like in towards the line of scrimmage, and Bryce West moved. He was at nickel, so he moved to free safety. So they're doing that because we were wondering, will they be able to do that? And then you got to find that out in the spring,
right? Yeah,
and see how they can do it. Lorenzo Styles had a fantastic play right around here, where he broke up an out route and like popped it up and almost grabbed it and would have walked into the end zone and dropped it. But I thought he had a good day too.
And one other guy who really jumped out to me was linebacker Peyton Pierce, who is a second-year player. He just was kind of around the ball a lot, and not just he's a Mike linebacker. So you're thinking, okay, Cody Simon coming up and filling the A gap. He had made a couple nice plays in coverage on receivers.
And the thing is, it's like, why it's a receiver, it's a pass, like maybe 15 yards downfield or to an out, and it's like he just jumps up and like bats it down. It's like, don't throw it at me, bro. And so he had a couple of plays like that where he knows where the ball is going, and he showed it today. Again, he is looking more and more like that third linebacker that is going to play this year when they want to give somebody a rest. And Sonny Styles, I don't even think he touched the practice field today. He was on the sideline. He was fine.
Yeah.
Him and Caleb Downs spent most of their time attached to Matt Patricia today over on the sideline. So Sonny Styles was busy because about the last half hour, for about 30 minutes after practice, he was just signing autographs and taking pictures.
Yeah, it was. I think I don't, as far as we're aware, there's no significant injury, anything with either of those guys. It's not, Downs talked about like maybe a little bit of a minor nothing, but it's really, I think this is mostly load management for both those guys because they both played. Downs played the most snaps on the team last year, and Styles was pretty high up on that list.
Sonny's still only 18.
You said that, and I thought, I don't think that's right, but it might be right.
19 by now.
I think he's at least 19. He might be 20. He's got to be 20 now. But anyway, yeah, he is. He's, a lot of those veteran returning starters, especially on the defense, the guys who there are not very many of them, but they have not been playing as much. You saw more Davis and Igbinosun than the other two guys of the three kind of returning starters. But yeah, it was. I mean, I thought Kenyatta Jackson looked good in the little bits that we saw him.
So Philip Daniels put Kenyatta Jackson on the ground on one play, and Jackson wanted a flag badly, and the refs weren't going to give it to him.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm just trying to think. We didn't see any special teams at all while we were in here.
So much so that we didn't even see what we always see at Student Appreciation Day.
Yeah, normally Student Appreciation Day, they put the curtains down and they have the student body like go right around the kicker and watch the kicker try and kick field goals in what is like as high a pressure. You're just trying to simulate the pressure of a game situation. And we have seen that in the past where it's like they make like almost a horseshoe shape around. It's like a gallery at a golf tournament where a guy's like teeing off and you got people all around him. And so that's a good way to sort of simulate the pressure. And we did not see that today for whatever reason.
But it's all right. Okay, I didn't come here just for that.
Yes. So
I came here for knockerball and I did not see it.
Yeah, well, didn't see that either. Did see a student race, a 40-yard dash where someone just tripped and absolutely ate it about 5 yards in. And then they made her rerun it, and she didn't win the second time either. That was rough. But yeah, it was like a nice day. I feel like we got a chance to sort of touch base with everyone and see how things are going. And then, of course, a week from now, the spring game. It's that'll be Saturday, April 12th. Almost said September 12th.
Well, 6 days from now, Tom. Today is Sunday.
Yes, that's true. That's the bit. Yes. Commitment to the bit. That's why we love him. That's why we love Tony Gerdeman, don't we, folks? 6 days from now, Saturday, April 12th. Now you confused me on days. Goodness. Saturday, April 12th, inside the Horseshoe. That'll kick off at noon, I believe. I think that's going to be a Big Ten Network extravaganza. We will be there. Should be a lovely day. Get a chance to learn a lot more, see a lot more about these guys. Going to be interested to see some of these other true freshmen. Quincy Porter, as I mentioned earlier, losing his black stripe. I don't want to say who had him in the black stripe draft, but it wasn't Tony, so it's fine.
Keep it a mystery.
Yeah, well, listen, we don't want to spoil any of the surprises. Got to go back and listen to the show, find out who's winning once again this year because he's so good at this.
Wrap the show up, Tom.
Okay. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. Make sure you join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark Harvest recruiting. We got our whole team of X's and O's gurus there. Tony's pouting. They're all to make you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And, of course, at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.